Hey guys, my name is Dano Major, and I'm going to be your chair for the DISEC committee at ILMUNC India 2017. I just want to first say that I'm sorry that there were any difficulties with the first webinar, and I hope that this finds you all well and gives you a little bit better of an expectation about what I expect in terms of committee and good delegates. And so I'm just going to start off again by giving you guys a little bit more information about myself. I am a sophomore studying at the University of Pennsylvania in the College of Arts and Sciences. I am currently majoring in international relations and mathematical economics, and I have a minor in Hispanic languages, namely Spanish. And I hope to be able to take these majors and take my knowledge of Spanish and study abroad in Argentina or another South American country in the next year. And I think that will just be a really great experience to integrate myself into a different culture and fully learn the language that I've been studying for the past 7 years or so. One of the reasons why I really like international relations is that it brings together my knowledge and a huge field of expertise on plenty of different topics that I have otherwise not getting a great, or I wouldn't otherwise get such a great look into. And that's also a reason why I really love Model UN, and the fact that at all of the conferences I have attended, I really feel that I have benefited from the different committees I've been in and the variety of topics that are discussed. And while I know that the two topics for our committee are two that may have been discussed before, you might be a little bit familiar with, I really encourage you guys to look deeper than the surface level of solutions. And I will get into my expectations for committee in a little bit, but I'm just going to continue to update you guys a little bit more on myself and then what I expect from actual delegates in committee. And so in terms of me, other than now what I am studying and I'm here, I am from California originally, and so coming to Penn was definitely a big transition for me. I know that many of you are looking to apply to schools, to universities and colleges in the next couple of years, and so I encourage you to reach out to me if you have any questions about applying to schools, and as much as I can, I'd love to be a resource and help you out with that. College has been a really great experience. You have a lot of freedom and ability to pursue your interests and passions, which I definitely feel like I've taken advantage of. And one of the pieces of advice that I would give to anyone approaching the collegiate level is to really involve yourself. I mean, my involvement with Penn's International Affairs Association has definitely enhanced my experience at Penn and has made me a person that I generally feel more connected to other people who are interested in the same area of expertise as me. But one of the other cool things about the International Affairs Association is that there are people from all 4 schools at Penn: Wharton, the college, the nursing school, and the School of Engineering and Applied Sciences. And there are people with so many different majors and minors that I really feel like I am meeting a diverse group of people with diverse interests, and that I can really benefit from everything that they have to contribute. And also I want to let you guys know that originally I was actually considering applying to Penn as a physics major, and obviously that has changed as that is not what I'm studying anymore. But one of the great things about Penn and about college in general is that you have that flexibility to an extent to switch around what you are studying, what you are majoring in, and what your interests are. And you shouldn't feel confined to one area of expertise. I have friends who are studying international relations but minoring in math or minoring in statistics or just different areas, and I think that is one of the greatest benefits of coming to a university like Penn or many other schools in which there are different schools that you can take classes in, but you do not feel limited to one major specifically. And so again, if you guys have any questions about what it's like applying as a STEM major or as a math major or anything, I don't know how much I can talk to about the actual experience here, but I definitely still have experience in those areas and would love to talk more about that. So you can always reach me by email. You can reach me on Facebook under the name Dano Major if you need to message me with any questions, and I will do my best to answer those as much as I can. Moving on a little bit more to actual conference itself. So I expect the top delegates are the ones who I will see participating and involved in all of the sessions. So that means not only just showing up and physically sitting in the chair and representing your country, but really contributing to the conversation, really conversing with other delegates to try to find other points of view, and ultimately coming together to form a resolution that is comprehensive and includes a bunch of different areas of the topic, because as our two topics, drones and mercenaries and the uses of mercenaries in armed conflict, they're both pretty wide-ranging topics, and I really don't want to just see the same generic standard solutions applied over and over again, nor do I want to see delegates come in with a full plan for what their solutions are and to see them being entirely closed-minded to the different solutions of other delegates and the way that they can come together to form a working paper. So my hope is that while I do want you all to be prepared and well-researched and come in with a general idea of where you want your working papers to go and ultimately what you want your resolutions to be, I really encourage you to spend the time in committee listening to the other delegates' perspectives and not just coming in with a one-sided approach and trying to stick with that all the way through. Personally, as a delegate who's competed at a number of conferences when I was in high school, both on a local level in California and across the nation, and as someone who worked with delegates from different delegations from abroad, and I actually last year worked at the National High School Model United Nations Conference in New York, so I saw delegates from across the United States, from countries in South America, from countries in Asia, in Europe, and I think that really Model UN is one of those places where people can come together and where the paper that comes out of it is more than just a paper. It's really a culmination of all of your ideas and everything that you guys have put into this conference. And so I really encourage you guys to take this conference as one where you can meet other people, where you can meet other delegates and get to know them truly on a level that's not just involved with debate, and that also you can take these friendships and use them to create a strong working paper, a strong draft resolution, everything. In committee itself, we will be running DISEC, so that's the first committee. We will be running it in a very typical standard General Assembly procedure. I do advise that all of you get to know a little bit more about the history of DISEC and what topics we cover, and to be sure that everything we are addressing is within the jurisdiction of our committee. And so in the background guide, primarily there is a little bit of an overview of what DISEC does as a body and what the jurisdiction is, but I would encourage you guys to look beyond just what is provided in the background guide. Look at the DISEC page on the United Nations website, look at past cases that DISEC has dealt with, and really just come in being familiar with exactly what is under our purview to discuss, because it will take us all off base if we come in attempting to discuss areas that are not as relevant. Obviously, with topics like mercenaries in an armed conflict, or with topics like drones, there are a number of humanitarian issues that come up, and there are some cultural issues that come up, but also since DISEC is focused on disarmament and security, I really hope that we are focusing more on those aspects. Now, that's not to say that the resolution and the working papers that you turn in shouldn't address any of those issues at all, but I really hope that the focus is more on the actual disarmament and security portions, and that we are leaving funding and super specific humanitarian solutions to some of the other committees that are more focused on those aspects. So that's in general like my thoughts on DISEC as a whole. In regards to how a General Assembly committee runs, I will let you guys look into that further, but we're basically going to start out by having a speakers list, and you guys will raise your placards and we will add people to the speakers lists. After you finish speaking, you can add your country's name back onto the speakers list, and if we get through all the speakers, we will start it back up again. But I want you to know that I like to, at certain times, move away from the speakers list. I think that sometimes as the topics evolve and that discussions go in different directions, it can be more helpful to hold a moderated caucus in which more people are able to speak on a specific topic and at a shorter speaking time, so we can get more perspectives together. But a lot of that is up to the flow of committee and how you guys see things going. Moderated caucuses personally are my favorite form of discussion, just because, as I said, you can get a little bit more specific onto the topics and the niche discussions that occur within them, rather than just talking about it as a whole for the entire committee session. So I will definitely be encouraging those as they come up. In terms of unmoderated caucuses, I definitely understand the necessity of having unmoderated caucuses to work on the working papers as they come together, as well as any potential conflicts that you have within your groups that need to be worked out, whether that's over policy or over general procedure or disagreements, and so I definitely encourage those, but I do want unmoderated caucuses to be a time of productivity, and I don't want them to be times when delegates feel that committee is on a break and that they do not need to be working, because unmoderateds are really a way for you to get the most done after you've been hearing what everyone else has been speaking about and about what other countries' policies and points of view are. So I encourage you to propose unmoderated caucuses as they may come up, and in any instances that they are not appropriate, I'll be sure to rule them dilatory, but really just take into account the flow of debate and the way it's going. And if you think that an unmoderated caucus is something that would benefit you or your working paper, your resolution group, please do motion for those. As a whole, I know that many delegates have different motions that they are willing to, or that they want to propose to be discussed, but I am going to cap it to 5 motions for moderateds or unmoderateds per time that I ask for points or motions on the floor, just in the just for the sake of being efficient and not repeated and not spending too much time on the logistical side of things. Also, I really hope that if there is a topic that is already on the floor to be voted on for a moderated topic, don't propose another moderated caucus with a different speaking time just to get your name out there. That's not something that's going to go over very well with me. And in general, just as someone who's competed on the collegiate Model UN circuit and also on the high school Model UN circuit, I don't want to see any of the power del dynamics where someone is trying to overpower someone else, or someone is arguing over who is turning in a flash drive, or whose name comes first on the working paper resolution. Those are things that I just personally don't care about, and things that have bothered me a lot as a delegate, and so I really am not going to be looking for those at all. Again, ILMUNC India 2017 is really focused on collaboration between delegates and really coming together to bring the strongest draft resolution to the table. And I don't think that can really happen unless you guys are willing to work with each other, are willing to put aside any personal differences you have to actually have that type of conversation. So just keep that in mind, that I'm not looking for the person who's coming across as really aggressive or overpowering other delegates, but rather the person who is pushing forward the most collaboration, who is really willing to listen to the ideas of others and encouraging others to speak. If you are someone who is a power delegate, that is not necessarily a problem. I definitely want to hear your opinions. I definitely want you to take control of your group if you feel that that's a position you want to take, but I really don't want to see any of the shady side of things that sometimes can come out as people begin competing for awards, because after all awards are obviously a great part of ILMUNC India and a goal to strive for. It is not everything, and I really want that focus of this to be on individual awards rather on the product that is going to come out at the end, so like the working papers or draft resolutions. Also in committee, be prepared to merge working papers. We are not going to take 10 draft resolutions into account, and so I will let you guys know on the first committee session how many working papers we're going to take, and also just keep in mind that the working papers, as they're presented, will be combined to form draft resolutions, especially if there are policies that are overlapping. And so I really encourage you guys that when you're working to be talking to other delegates, to be keeping in mind that in the end we are looking for the merging of working papers to get either 1 or 2 draft resolutions to be voted on, and that being averse to merging and not being helpful or willing to speak to other delegates when you have similar stances is not going to be viewed in a very good light. And so that's my thoughts on kind of how delegates should present themselves when we are deciding awards. I will definitely be looking for the people who have collaborated the most, the ones who have really steered the direction of debate. So that means if maybe there's a time that you propose a moderated caucus on a topic that hasn't really been discussed that much, and you really get the other delegates talking about something that was looked over up until that point, that's something that I will definitely look upon favorably. Also, for those delegates who are feeling a little bit more shy, I will look for delegates who are helping them, encouraging them to speak, really looking to work together to enhance every delegate's experience, because the highlight for me, at least, of chairing Model UN conferences is seeing these delegates come together and bring together this finished product that can be some of the best work ever. And I really do look forward to seeing your guys' collaboration and your ideas come together because I spent my summer writing these background guides, and I'm really excited that you guys have had a chance to look into them, but I also want there to be research and solutions developed beyond the background guide, because, again, the background guides are meant to give you an overview of what we are expecting from committee and an overview of what the topics are, but they are by no means fully comprehensive synopses of the issues. Another thing to keep in mind is that we are not going to be speeding through both topics. Rather, on the first committee session, after we take roll call and attendance, and I give you guys just a general introduction to myself and to my assistant chair, who you will meet soon, or I guess you'll meet at conference, we will move into 2 speakers for and 2 speakers against or 2 speakers for each of the topics, and then eventually as a committee we will vote on which topic we're going to discuss. And the majority of our weekend will be dedicated to speaking about that topic. Personally, I do not have any preference as to which topic is discussed. I think that they are both equally engaging and stimulating topics that have a lot to do with past precedents set by the UN, past cases handled by the Disarmament and Security Committee, and also a lot to do with the current events and different policies that are being made today. And so I definitely would be thrilled to hear a full discussion and have committee dedicated to both of the topics, but since we do not have time, we will be choosing one of the topics, and at that point devoting most of our time to addressing that one. If somehow our committee moves very quickly and by one of the sessions we end up finishing a little bit early, we can choose to move into the second topic, but I really do not see that as a likely progression of how the course is going. To get into the specific topics a little bit more, I am not going to give you guys a play-by-play overview of what the background guide says, because the background guides are provided to you with the intent that you guys are reading them and you're seeing that some of the places that I want to focus on and some of the topics that I want to see covered. So I'm not gonna go through that right now, just because I think that for everyone's time, it's the most productive if you guys are going through those on your own. And obviously, you're welcome to reach out to me if you have any questions. I have already had a couple of delegates send me emails asking for clarification, and I am always happy to respond to those emails and give you guys any feedback on what I see being the most ideal perspective. But at the same time, you can also just come into me on the first session with questions. You can speak to any other delegates that you know in the committee about what their perspectives are. But again, please don't hesitate to reach out to me if you have any general questions about something that I mentioned in the background guides, about the content of the background guides, anything along those lines. So again, I'm always a resource here for you. But in terms of the topics, in the background guides, there are some times when I focus on specific case studies for specific regions. For example, speaking a lot about mercenaries in Africa. And that doesn't mean necessarily that I want our debate to fully center on that issue the entire time, but rather that was meant to give you an example of the role that can be played by mercenaries in different areas, even if they are not the center of the conflict. Because a lot of times with this topic in particular, I know that delegates have only focused on like one side of the issue, or have only really looked into the use of mercenaries in a specific region or in a specific conflict. And my goal is that we are really opening our eyes and our minds up to the entire breadth of this conflict and of this issue, because it is something that has implications in the politics of a nation, in the economies of a nation, in the economies between nations, on the cultures of nations. And all of those are topics that I think working papers and resolutions should really address. And so as a whole, when you see specific regions discussed, or when you see specific case studies for different aspects of the topics, I encourage you to look into those, to really read about them. To be honest, I'm probably giving you a more detailed synopsis of that topic than I am of other areas of it. So I think that a lot of that can be good research, but I would encourage you to look for other case studies where something different may have happened. And during all of these case studies, look into solutions that were proposed by individual nations or by the UN that have been successful, in the ways in which they have been successful. Have they made a lasting change? Has this change been more through the legal sorts by countries imposing laws? Has it been through internationally, like the UN proposing and passing resolutions in regarding these? Has it been deals worked out among specific countries that have to do with their economies or their political relations. Really look into all of those things, and sometimes understand that these may overlap with some of the economic issues, the cultural issues, societal issues. But again, keep in mind that as the first committee focused on disarmament and security, I want the majority of our focus to be on the security measures itself. That being said, one of the topics that I really hope will be discussed and that you guys can come together and work on is the idea of sovereignty. For drones especially, this is one of those issues that comes up given that there's airspace involved, and that sometimes it can become a little bit shaky as to which countries have jurisdiction over which areas, or if countries are allowed to fly their drones into certain areas. And so I think that this sovereignty issue is one that definitely must be addressed, and I would love to see discussion about this and also to see it included in any working papers, as it is one of the most pressing matters of this topic, just in terms of this topic alone and also in the general implications that it has for other topics that are going to come into discussion beyond mercenaries and drones, and even beyond just political conflict and issues. So yeah, just keep in mind that sovereignty issues are ones that I really hope we are discussing as a committee, because obviously the stances of countries tend to be different. For more open and developed countries, they're going to have a different perspective than less democratic, closed-off countries, and they're going to have a different perspective from the more developing countries who don't have as strong a government to stake their claim for sovereignty. And so I want you guys to really be aware of where your country stands on this issue, and be sure that when you come into committee, you're voicing that concern. For example, countries like the United States are definitely going to have a different view than the DPRK, Democratic People's Republic of Korea, or Russia, or even any countries that have been war-torn, including many countries in Africa, the Democratic Republic of the Congo. There are definitely different perspectives that come out of the history of nations, and I hope that when you're discussing your nation's policy, you guys are able to indicate why that policy may have come up. So, for example, what are some issues that your country has faced, and what have been the policies and procedures governing those issues? How does your country see moving forward? What is the best manner in which your country is going to move forward with these issues? And I really don't want countries to come in and all just form one block and kind of agree on the same ideas that don't really take a stance, because a lot of your countries do have a strong opinion, and I really do hope to see those come out. However, that being said, that is not to encourage you to stick to the side and not work with any other nations. As I've emphasized, I think, a number of times in this video, collaboration is really one of the most important factors of debate and one of the things that I'm looking for. And this is something that I hope to really see come out of our debate, because I will be definitely very disappointed and not looking very favorably upon delegates who refuse to collaborate with their peers. And so yeah, that's just a quick overview of my thoughts on sovereignty, especially given that we are DISEC and that these are two of the topics that we are focusing on. I think this is an applicable point of debate and point of differentiation among countries, and I definitely want to hear what your guys' different perspectives are, both in terms of the position papers and in terms of speaking in general. So yeah, that is a general view of how I feel I want debate itself to go. If you guys have any questions, again, please feel free to reach out to me via email, via Facebook Messenger is fine by me, and I will do my best to respond to any questions you guys have with the most precision and detail as I can. But also keep in mind that I do want you guys to be doing this research on your own and coming to committee prepared so we can discuss these issues more. I think one of the greatest things about Model UN is that it really encourages individuals to take a unique perspective and to take these topics and issues and look at it from a number of different perspectives, and then ultimately come together with what they think are the best solutions for addressing these issues. And I think that from my time debating in Model UN, I've really learned a lot about how to research for topics and how to propose solutions that are both on par with my country's policy and also make sense in terms of my country's relation with other countries. And this is one of those talents that I think can really be applied beyond Model UN. And this is a talent that has really helped me a lot in my life in general, far outside of just debating. Being able to work with people, being able to collaborate with people is a huge asset that not many people have, actually, surprisingly enough. And I think that conferences like this really give delegates the opportunity to exercise those skills of collaboration and develop different manners of negotiating, of working through problems, of hearing someone else's side in an argument that can be applied way beyond the 4 days of debate that we're going to be sitting in. Another thing that I'm really encouraging is working on your public speaking. I know that some of you may be nervous, or this may be your first Model UN conference, and it can be really daunting to get up in front of 100 or more students and speak about what your country says, but I really, really do want to emphasize that I encourage everyone to speak. I would love to see participation from all delegations. Even if you just want to give up and give a shorter speech than the speaking time, it would be great to really get the perspectives of every country. And if you're ever nervous about something, or you want me to help look over one of your speeches before you give it, or you want any feedback, I am definitely here for you in that sense as well. Because again, while the focus of this committee is on specific topics, and we will be debating one of those topics, Model UN is a skill that can really be applied throughout your life, and this could be a really good place for you to exercise those skills, get feedback on those skills, and continue to develop and use those skills in other aspects of your life. So again, that's kind of the gist of how I'm feeling going into committee. Those are my expectations for delegates in terms of the way they're conducting themselves and the way that they are viewing conference. If you guys have any further questions about procedure, about the topics, about myself, or about honestly anything that I've discussed on this webinar, or anything that you think I can help you out with, please feel free to reach out to me, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Until then, I am really looking forward to conference. I am excited to see you guys in almost 2.5, 3 weeks, and I'm really looking forward to everything. So have a great rest of your time. Good luck with all of your preparations. All my best from me to you.